the live thing. Okay.
Also, yeah, so we were just having a conversation before we went live, and I felt like this needed to be live because these two motherfuckers have completely different perspectives on this. Kyle believes
Beautiful.
that men cannot wait, can you share the tweet? Like can you pull
You,
it up?
I don't let me. Actually, yeah, I should be able to. Give me one
Yeah.
second. Go ahead, fill
Kyle
the
be-
dead air.
Kyle believes that men cannot post first thirst traps and that only women can. Because what was your reasoning behind this?
I will die on this hill all day. Let me get it up so I don't butcher it. Okay, here we go. Now let me see if I can do the present. Okay, share screen. Here we go.
This is a detour to what we were actually we're going to talk about today, but I feel like this
You
needs to
have to
happen.
add it to the add it to the stream. I
Do
can't
I
do
have?
that.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Oh, I didn't even know. Oh, here it is.
Okay,
Uh,
men cannot post thirst traps. My buddy Kevin's in the chat already.
Hi.
Uh, Men cannot post thirst trap. Men and women interpret attention differently. It's why women will read porn all day and post thirst traps, whereas men will watch porn all day and post about their cars. Now, once again, my reasoning for this is that men don't really care about attention. Like we do to a certain degree, but that's not going to make our penis hard because we don't have this idea that like there's going to be available resources to us, right? We're looking for sexual availability. That's why we'll watch porn all day because it gives us the perception that there's sexual availability, right? You see a nude woman in our ancestral past, our brains would have said like, hey, that means I have a chance to get in that. Nowadays, because we have free 4K streaming porn, we can sedate ourselves with that where we no longer do productive things because we're sedating ourselves that way. Women do this the same way, but they're interpreting this attention as available resources to them because this is how their hive brain would have interpreted it. Because when they post thirst traps, they get a whole bunch of likes and attention. And once again, it's the perception that they have that there's a lot more, available resources and available suitors than there actually are. So this is kind of like the different psychology of how men and women will interpret attention.
So, I mean, like I understand the base premise, but the whole idea that like men can't post thirst traps, like I'm in groups where men post
It's the
thirst traps.
psychological. It's the
I guess he's
psychological
saying that it
understanding of
doesn't
it.
work. Like that there's no one thirsty for the thirst traps. What I commented was what about gay men? Obviously gay men like thirst traps.
Yeah.
Okay, but
What,
the
right?
gay guy looking at thirst trap, he's still going to get an erect penis because this is what he wants. His sexual preference is for other men, so therefore, when he sees a guy posting a thirst trap, quote unquote, then he interprets that as like I want to bang it. That makes my
No,
penis
I
hard.
understand. Like gay dudes are their audience is still men, right? And so it's like thirst
Yes.
traps are for men, not by men. But and again, like there's an aspect that might just be like counterculture to this, but
Mhm.
Wait.
like so there are groups on Facebook, right,
Sure.
where large groups of women, and this is like 80 to 100 plus women are ogling, heckling, saying like objectifying things to men who are posting photos of themselves like post workout, like whatever. They're like PG-13. It's like it's not like nudes, but they're like photos where dudes are feeling themselves posting these things, and the women are like, oh shit, like, and saying like objectifying things with like in a welcoming attitude. Like you can do it, but I don't think that works. Like you can't do it in the wild, right? Any attractive like woman generally can post something out into the wild, and you'll get the spectrum.
Okay, Brandy's steaming over there, but yeah,
Well,
good.
okay, no, because now I'm actually thinking about this because I'm like, okay, what if a guy posted a photo of themselves? Like, would this like be? I actually think like, well, to be a thirst trap, it doesn't mean that does it have to be objectifying? Because I was just thinking like if a guy posts a hot like attractive photo of themselves and I'm like,
Every
"Oh
photo I
damn,
post.
they look good." Like, like so technically, yeah, that's kind of a thirst trap, but maybe the thirst trap is a little different like them at the gym or them doing something that's like I don't know, something to make them seem interesting or hot or whatever. Like maybe it's not in the same context or no because I guess it has to be them posting themselves in like a promiscuous like in like
So my
nude
my take my
type of thing?
take on a thirst trap, right, is it's posted with intent for eliciting a sexual response,
Okay, okay.
right?
It
Sure.
has to be
Right.
sexual. Okay.
So because
All right.
plenty of women can post, like if you just post like, "Hey, I was hanging out with my child at the fucking beach," and you're just hot in a bikini, that's not a thirst trap. That's just you're hot. You know what I mean? Like if somebody calls it a thirst trap, they're probably unless it's like, maybe that person knows what they're dealing with or something. But like you can have candid photos that look sexy, and it's not a thirst trap. It's just a slice of life. But you know the Instagrams that are only shots of them in their underwear or bikinis versus someone who's like, oh, this is my life, and sometimes I'm hot in public. This is a space where people are doing it for the specific sexual eye of many women viewers who are enjoying it and enjoying it.
I'm wondering if this means that I'm more gay than straight, because I definitely get that with girls, with girls when they post like sexy photos. But yeah, no, I'll be honest, I don't think I get that when guys post sexy photos of like them trying to like elicit a sexual response.
Okay, but the
now
whole
I'm like,
point,
fuck, am I gay? Am I more gay? Okay,
I mean, the whole point essentially is that men, when they post a photo that's like of them looking good, it doesn't elicit the same psychological response in a man as it does a woman, because the woman interprets the attention differently than the man's going to interpret the attention. Like, yes, you could say that me posting pictures back when I was a lot leaner, that's thirst trapping. Okay, yeah, I got a six pack, my back looks good, whatever. It's a thirst trap, quote unquote, but like the way that the women will come on to me or like my picture, I don't interpret that as like available sexuality. I interpret that as, okay, well, she finds me attractive.
Well,
that doesn't probably, but like that doesn't mean that's that. Whereas a woman, once again, her psychological, when she reads the likes and sees guys telling her that she's attractive and stuff like this, she thinks that this is, the psychological impression is that, okay, well, these men are available and they want to provide me something because they have sexual interest in me.
Yeah,
that's okay. You don't have to think that, but
so Kyle, what is your take on these spaces where men are doing those things and get like, I post photos and people say nice things about my body, which I like laugh. I'm like, why would you think that? You're so blind. But but it feels good when people are like, oh, hey, what's up? So I don't understand. Like, I think we have a societal block to men being allowed to enjoy that aspect, or there is
because not many men do, though. That's the thing. Because
I don't think it's on the men not enjoying it. I don't think there's a market for it.
I'm not saying that men don't enjoy it. I'm saying the psychological response between men and women is going to be different. Like, everybody loves attention, don't get me wrong, but like the way that women and men interpret attention is completely different. That's what I'm getting at here.
I actually think it's the other side of the coin. I think that men and women can enjoy attention if you create a like kind of controlled environment, right? Where all of a sudden men magically get the same kind of attention that women do, you will get the same responses. I think we exist in a society where the value of those things is very different. And so men react to that because it's like, I don't want to put myself out, like, a beautiful woman, or even just like fucking like, regular like person who is like a woman, even, it doesn't matter that she's like imagine somebody who's not a model, just a regular woman, post something kind of provocative, will still get tons and tons of chirps. The same is not true at all for guys, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So I think it's much more. I don't think it's that we don't experience it in like a way like I don't think we're experiencing it differently. I think we're like defensive mechanism, like being like, well, if you're not going to like it, I'm not going to give it to you. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you.
No, I see what you're getting at, but it's also the fact that like women don't find as large a group of people attractive as men find, right? Like the men find the vast majority of women, somewhat recently attractive.
I don't know if I think that I think that a lot of men are kind of picky.
I think you're out of your mind, because generally for most men the question is when and where, right? As long as you're not
like they'll fuck them, I guess you're right, like dating and fucking.
Okay, but that implies attraction, because nobody's ugly after 2 a.m. but like guys generally do have
guys will fuck women they're not attracted to. That's a fact.
Yeah, somewhat, but like generally once again, the attraction cues still have to be there, right? Because you want to find somebody there are going to be things that the guy finds attractive, and that's what gets his foot in the door to say, like, I want to sleep with this woman, right? Like, if she's completely ugly, if she looks like, what the fuck was that one dude, Rocky from that one movie? If she has a fucked up face, he's not going to sleep with her, right? Like, there are certain objective attraction cues for guys that will make their penis hard and make them want to go fuck that woman. That's the way.
I think it's just availability.
Every woman I've ever spoken to has always said that it's easy to get laid. Whereas,
are you referring to men or are you referring to women?
Women. Okay.
I
don't know if people like I know women of every kind of echelon of attractive scale by like societal standards, right? Like
Sure.
people who are all over the place.
So do I.
All of them report sex as being an easy to obtain thing,
Yes.
right? So I
Yes.
do
Yes,
understand.
because there are
so-
uglier dudes, but like generally, a guy will have a certain threshold of what he realizes what he can get, and generally the question is like, if not when, where. Like for me, because I understand that I'm not the ugliest dude out there, I'm not the most gorgeous dude ever, but like I understand that like, hey,
Be
I can
humble, Kyle.
I understand that, like, if I see a 300-pound woman walking down the road, I'm like, okay, I don't want anything to do with that. But if I see someone that's a little bit more fit and attractive, and I was single, then I would say, okay, well, then that's a little bit more up my alley. Like, there are certain things where guys will say no, but like that floor is way, 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 way lower for men. And for women, that floor is a lot higher, where they're going to have a lot more stipulations for a guy and for what they're looking for in a guy.
Right, but that comes back to availability. Also, like large women can be very attractive too. I love
To large men.
I
Well,
don't think
you
of
know,
myself as a large man, and I love having sex with large women.
This is a touchy subject for me right now. Continue.
Is it? All right, we'll walk away from that
No,
one. If that's
no,
so
no, no,
fun.
no. I'm just kidding. Because yeah.
Oh, right.
I'm fatphobic, Ryan.
No one
You
wants to
didn't
fuck
know?
him anyways. Come on, let's be honest here. Jesus Christ.
Listen.
When was the last time you seen a fucking beached whale dancing on a fucking pole that people wanted to watch? Come on, let's be honest here.
I mean,
actually
I don't know what
think
to
that
tell
it's
you. Yeah, I
late-
love
they-
body types.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying fat girls can't be pretty. I'm just saying people aren't going to go throw ones on the table for a beached whale that is moving up and down the pole. Like, people do not do that.
well, it's also about like just being light on your feet. Like you're just this is something that's like hard to discuss when it comes to dancing, that people like ballet studios have this as well. It's like you're a better dancer when you're light on your feet. And it has nothing to do with you being fat. It has to do with skill.
Okay,
I'm
that is
sorry.
actually true as well.
It's
because, like, dancing on a
objectively
pole is
just
going to, yeah,
true.
it's going to
It's
require
just
a lot of like core
I'm
muscle
not.
and
I'm not
flexibility.
saying I'm a counter. All I'm saying is that very large women can also be very attractive, and I
Oh,
am
yeah.
a person who enjoys various body types, and I
And,
like.
and I have too, but I'm just saying, like, for most men, they're probably like, if you're an average guy, you're probably going to have a certain point where you're like, okay, well, that's a little too much for me. But like that window is going to be a lot bigger for you. Now, if you're a fat dude who can't really get any options, then you're wide open. Whatever you can get is whatever you're going to get. It's basically like, whereas like for women, they have a lot more stipulations. Like I said, their standards are going to be a lot higher.
I
Where
think
once
you would-
again,
I think
Go
you'd be shocked at how many of those fat people are actually like, I don't know if this is like something they've created in their mind, but they're actually like pickier than you would think. Some of them, not all of them, but this is definitely a thing. And that's why the last time I correlated it to porn, or like they think that they can, or maybe it's like they're
whole actual
afraid
people
of
can still have
rejection.
whatever
or
standards
something.
they want. It's totally
Yeah.
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
true.
I'm not making a judgment call on anybody's like standards, but I'm just saying, there's probably a certain point where like an average guy probably will not want to get with a woman that he deems too low for him.
The
right?
only time the lowering the standards measure comes in is if you're not having sex. If somebody has standards and they're getting laid, like then their standards are fine. I think I see this a lot more with men, like 40-plus-year-old bald dudes who are like, I kind of want that model, and it's like,
No,
my
yeah.
dude, you got to reevaluate your ranking in the social hierarchy here. But going back to your point, larger women will still find who they're looking for.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with
because
that.
there's a sexual market for every, but
There's an ass for every seat.
yeah. I think this is a really interesting distinction, because I think the psychology of how people act is a reaction and not an inherent property. I think if you switched things around, like if we lived, did you ever there was a movie where like a dude wakes up and it's a matriarchy, and like women are the like they hold all the jobs, they do all the things, even like childbirth is this very like butch masculine thing, and they like get into a rack and like fucking shoot a baby out, and they're like, ugh. And all the
My
men
shorts are getting shorter just hearing about this.
yeah, it literally, all the men are like secretaries and wear short shorts and have to go to the gym and everything like that. And it was like this really interesting, like, it's not a very good movie.
It sounds horrible. But
yeah,
continue.
but it's like a low budget indie movie, but it like has an interesting exploration of like what it would look like if the world across the board had just a gender flip, and like what that looks like for psychology. And I think, like, have you traveled to places where you are inherently desirable? So like
I would say
classic,
when I play music, that's kind of the case.
sure, but I'm talking about like
Different
Japan.
cultures where they find you like very hot. Yeah, like an
Yeah.
Asian. Like I remember not I haven't been to Japan or China or anything, but even in Chinatown in Boston, like there would be people that would be like, "Can I
Bastard.
take a picture? Can we take a
Hmm.
picture together?" Like that's definitely a thing that it's they like are very they find like American women and I think men too attractive.
I mean, honestly, even going to a gay bar is a great place to exist because men tend to be very forward, right? So gay dudes will like you'll go to a space and dudes will be very forward with you. They're usually polite, they're usually courteous, not always, but they're very forward, right? And so it's like, oh hey, like what's going on? Like, hey, do you want to go to the bathroom? I'll suck your dick. Like, and it's like, holy shit, dude, I'm here to see my friend fucking play the fucking show. But
Yeah.
that's the level of availability women have. It's like it's so hard to
Yes.
wrap
Right.
your head around it. So
Exactly.
it
Yes.
changes the way you fundamentally like view sex. I think that's how, like when you're saying like women are not going to be thirsting after people, because I think that we've kind of like we've fucked up the fucking like interaction so heavily because guys are on the street throwing fucking shade, everybody on the train is doing things. I think if we lived in a world where people were like sexually kinder to each other, women would be sluttier and you'd have a lot more like openly like, oh hey, like you look good, like let's, you know what I mean? I don't
We'd be
that's
like bonobos.
I'm trying to take us from chimps to bonobos. We're right in
Yes.
the middle of I'm trying to move us
Sex
bonobo
at
way.
Dawn, baby. Great book.
Yeah,
babe.
yeah.
Great book. Kyle, have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Oh God, you gotta read that book. It's so good. I mean, to be fair, it was like that was the book that I read that made me really consider. I actually no, I was in a non-monogamous relationship before that because I dated a couple in my early 20s. But it was the book that really just made me be like interesting, like
It's always
thinking
wild to me.
differently about that stuff.
Well,
It's
so
wild
like
to me.
when it comes to like monogamy and polyamory, I think we've covered this before, but like humans are not innately monogamous. It just so happens that we discovered in multiple civilizations that like, hey, we tend to do better when families are together and there's a mother and a father that raise a child together. That tends to be the situation. That doesn't mean that it has to be blanketly what absolutely everybody does, but it's just that once again, families and kids tend to do better in those kind of situations. But once again, we're not innately monogamous.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree with even I mean, it depends on how you define better, right? Like, I think the village style that, like, I think that the authors of Sex at Dawn and what Brandy's talking about, like that, like, where you don't necessarily know whose parents everybody is specifically, but everyone's raising everybody together.
Yeah.
It has, there's a lot of benefits to it, but you don't know how to do inheritance that way. And so if you have land owning society
Right.
values, you
Ooh,
can't do
he's
it.
going on the Marx take right now. Marx said this actually. No, but well, no. This is actually just a communist talking point that because Marx believed that the reason for monogamous. No, I'm not accusing you. I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying that Marx believed that the sole purpose of marriage was because of property, private property, and that that marriage was basically a part of like the capitalist system, and it was for inheritance that you needed to like pass down your property for people. So it's actually a communist. Like it's just a communist talking point. I'm not accusing you of anything.
That's super fair. I mean,
You said I'm not accusing you as you accuse him of using a communist
seriously,
talking
like, hey,
point.
by the way, that's fucking communist shit. I mean, if somebody says something that's correct and right, and it happens to be in a philosophy, I don't care. Like,
Right.
Well, no, I don't know. Do you think that that's how it always like? Well, I don't think that monogamy. I think monogamy has roots beyond property rights, though. I don't think
mean-
Marx was correct there.
I think well, once again, men's general desire is to make sure that the kid is theirs. Therefore, like you were saying, inheritance. You want to know that offspring's yours. So yeah, you could argue that maybe it's better that like, hey, you have a community raising children. I would actually generally agree with that, but you would also want to know like, this is my child, and if you fuck with my child, I will do whatever it takes to protect my child. Like, you want to know that that kid is yours because you're investing in your own offspring because you want your own lineage to continue.
Right. So the hypothesis that is posited by the way the people from the book that Brandy's talking about, that this kind of thinking is that is a learned behavior.
Yeah,
and that
I think it's based in societal norms. Like, and like what's weird is that it kind of like shifts. Like, so every culture and time period, like they had different societal norms. I don't know where those are kind of structured, like how that's structured, but like monogamy will be more popular in certain societies than in others. And like to say like one or the other is more inherent, I don't really know. Obviously, like, were the cavemen, do you believe that they were all polyamorous? I guess there had to have been a benefit that moved them towards monogamy for that to happen eventually.
Now,
So-
I am. Oh, God, Ryan.
Well, I was going to say, so like what you're saying, Kyle, is still in line with that thought, right? Like that's still the thinking. It was just that whole like I'm going to like protect my own was tribal focused as opposed to individual focused.
These were your people.
Correct. And so it didn't matter whose was your kid because everyone was your people. And then once we started like divvying, like the nuclear family, I mean, it's hard to say, right? Well, we should like bring somebody in who actually knows history and how this broke in, because we used to like. I feel like monogamy became this kind of thing that like poor people would do, like the peasants would like form the families and you do these things because
and you had babies that could like work on the farm for you.
Exactly.
They were basically free labor.
This is basically what I was talking about. I want to say maybe our first episode was that basically the reason why people had a lot of kids, so that way they would have a lot more hands to help around the farms and stuff like that.
Yeah, labor.
Whereas like now kids are a little bit more of a commodity, if you will, not to put it bluntly, but like, you know, like it's expensive to have kids and you live a pretty good life without kids. And you don't have to have extra farm hands to take care of the house or anything like that. Like you could do it by yourself or you could pay somebody else to do it. So like, there's not necessarily as much of a requirement to, you know, have a bunch of kids. Now, the one thing that I kind of want to put out here, and I'm very, very analytical when it comes to this kind of stuff. You know, if anybody's listened to my show, then you'll know that I'm way into like science and research and stuff like that, because I'll dig into studies. But like, if you look at like the industrial booms over the last like 200 years and how much civilization has advanced over that period of time, then you have to consider that like monogamy played a part in this. Now, I'm not saying that it's responsible for that, but like we've had a lot of monogamy over the last, you know, couple hundred years, and that's led, I don't want to say that has led, but like over the last couple hundred years, we've had the greatest technology boom and the greatest amount of prosperity that humankind has ever known.
I would actually say that that's due to free market capitalism.
But I agree with that. But what I'm saying here is that you can't discount the fact that monogamy was also
we're like, what is the correlation is not causation? Is that
yes, I agree. Yes. I completely agree with that.
So yeah, I don't know if I think that means anything, because I think the monogamy became more obviously with like Christianity and like the puritanical mindset, all that stuff. I think that that's what really pushed monogamy into the forefront. But that doesn't mean that if people wanted to have like polyamory, like polyamorous families where everyone's kids was everyone's kids and like a little group, I don't think that would be like harmful. I genuinely, I obviously I don't know the psychology on this, but I don't see how that would create like make it economically less fruitful.
Right.
Like I don't see how it would affect the economy in a negative way.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with the vast majority of that. Correlation is not causation, but you can't discount the fact that, you know, we've had free markets and monogamy, and that led to the greatest prosperity that we've ever known. So an interesting counterpoint, or maybe not even a counterpoint, but like a parallel where it's really one of the only comparisons we can talk about is Rome, right? Where you have a high level of civilization. I love how you had to go to the meme. Do men think about the Roman Empire every day?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh shit. Well, I think about the Roman Empire though, and I'm not a guy. I just like history though. I don't. Yeah. Does this just mean that like maybe it's just that a lot of women just don't like history that much? Because I just talked to my girlfriend about this, and I was like, I think about history all the fucking time, and the Roman Empire is actually one that I think about very often because there's just a lot of interesting. Exactly. I actually made a tweet about all the parallels between the Roman Empire and the U.S. So I was like, I don't know if I think this is a male thing or it's just some people that are more interested in history.
That's super weird. Most of the people I know with history PhDs are women. I know a few guys, but it's women.
Well, that's interesting. Did they think about the Roman Empire?
Thank you, Kyle. Let me get back on.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. I completely derailed that, and I'm so sorry.
No. I love it. It's great. But so Romans had a version of free market capitalism. They had, you know, a lot of the like class structure that we have today, but they had a much looser definition of sexual value. for the ruling class, right? The nobility and like the landowning folk of Rome, you had your marriage was effectively like a business relationship. Like they were your partner in terms of your estate, your land, all these things. But like they had rules for how and who you could have sex with outside of your marriages, and it was like really fascinating in terms of who counted and who didn't. So like you could be sleeping with people every day and it was not cheating, but if you slept with another one of them, like that cast, it was, and it was a whole like you go to war over that shit. So it was really interesting to see where that was drawn. But Romans were also fucking deviants, so it's maybe not like that, you know. And they also fell from corruption, so I don't know. It's hard to say, you know, is monogamy a crucial aspect of that, because we've seen Rome had almost comparable levels of prosperity, right? Lower tech level, but
this is like, so I was actually just reading a study about this Hawaiian tribe, like a indigenous Hawaiian tribe, and apparently they didn't care about monogamy except for the royals, and that was due to like the bloodlines and everything. But everyone else, it was like what we were saying, like everyone's kids was everyone's kids, everyone fucked everyone, it was very like promiscuous, no one gave a shit. But like the royals, virginity mattered, and so did monogamy.
Okay, so
and then it makes me wonder, is the mimicking it, like, because that would make sense. And God, don't get me on the rabbit hole on where royal families came from, because that will just spin me out of control.
Brandy, they're royal divine blood.
Don't get me started, because I can go on some conspiracy theories there.
Sure.
Some other podcast, we don't want to go there, but like maybe it's like a mimicking of the royal family, because they were like it's like the celebrities of the time, so people wanted to mimic what they did.
Sure. Okay. So then, I mean, that kind of begs the question then, why would they preserve that for just the royals then? And you're not going to
make me go on this tangent.
No. I'm sorry. And look, we're literally a half hour in. We have not talked about a single thing.
I think this is good content right here.
This is absolutely fantastic. So I really do like it. But that kind of begs the question then, like, you're not going to find many guys, like the vast majority of guys, if you tell a guy like, hey, somebody is fucking your wife, then they're going to say, I'm going to murder that guy. I will do whatever I can to stop that. The vast majority. Now, there are going to be some people who are a little bit looser about this, but like, maybe that's a condition thing. But I know if somebody told me like, hey, this guy's hitting on your wife, or
you'd murder him, Kyle, you shouldn't say that on the internet.
I wouldn't murder him, but let's just say that there would be issues, to say the least. And then I have friends that would agree with me that like, hey, this is his wife. Do not do this.
All right. So Kyle, how do people behave in a world where the idea of marriage, you're like, oh, you're the first person to get married. Nobody's been married before this. Mm-hmm. And you're like, and the person who is like, you know, they're doing it this way, and they're like, oh, I want to have sex with your wife. Is that what I'm calling her? Okay. And you're like, I'm going to kill you for that. It's like, you know, how do people, so we haven't had a modern society that didn't have these sort of things. We have no way of like telling, you know, is this an innate sort of thing? Like, do we pair bond by biological drive, or is it a cultural?
Okay. So I'm my honest opinion on this is that no, we actually do not innately pair bond. We strongly attach to somebody. Like, that's why we have the honeymoon phase, right? You have the phase of I think they say it's like anywhere from like a year to 2 years, where like you're very, very into this person. And then, you know, that's basically supposed to just kind of get you over that hump where you have a kid. And then, you know, the woman's obviously be very, very invested in the kid, but like, then the male may not be as invested, but like, this is innately in us. So that way, you know, we'll at least a man will be with a woman for a certain period of time. Now, just like I said, over the course of time, we found that, hey, it just so happens that, you know, things tend to go a little bit better when we have, you know, one man, one woman raising a child together, that like we choose to do this throughout cultures. Like, there's a reason why we have monogamy all through, or, you know, at least in today's world. Now, like in my mind, if you enter an agreement where you say like, hey, this is open on my end, open on your end, and we're going to enjoy our lives that way, then that's okay. But like, in the situation like my wife and I, once again, close on her end, close on my end, then stepping outside of that is wrong. But if other people decide to do other things, then I don't see that as more wrong. But if you would ask me like 2-3 years ago, I probably would have had a different take on it. But like today, I really don't see an issue with that.
Actually, so I have a video. I actually didn't think I was going to start with this, but I actually think I'm going to. I don't even know if I even said that I was going to do this, but we're doing it because this is correlated to what we're talking about.
Sure.
About
Ryan
hold,
looks like he has something to say, but
do you have Ryan, say something. Do you have
I've it's such an interesting like thought to me. Like I feel I don't want to go round and round, right? Because we can like go back and forth on a lot of these little like nuances of things.
Yeah.
I guess the question I would have asked was if you know, the way you feel about a partner and the way that kind of like, I don't want these people to do these sort of things, that can be learned from other things in your life, right? Like if you, like if as an artist and you're creating art and somebody steals your style, right? Like there's a similar sort of thing to that thing when you have, I don't know, like our brains are wired to do that kind of thing, but we are also wired to learn things.
So basically what you're asking is like, do you think these are culturally learned behaviors
this
that
is the
you adopt
nature versus nurture debate, and it is both.
Perfect.
It is both.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
This goes into this video because this is obviously Japan, and it is their cultural views on cheating.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, let's
風俗に行くことは浮気かどうかっていう、どう思いますか？
浮気じゃない。浮気じゃない。気持ちの浮気は嫌なんですけど、まあ、性欲の浮気は別に勝手にしてくれるんやったらいいかな。一般人と連絡取れる間でやられるよりは、店でちゃんとしてもらった方がいいです。イエス。なんかわざわざ風俗に行く意味がわからない。秘密にしてたらあれだけど、まあ、情に恋とかしなければいいじゃん。浮気ではない。隠さなければ浮気じゃない。浮気するなら風俗に行けって言ったことあります。金払えばいいよって言ったことあります。新しいね、出会いじゃなくて、お金払って言ってるなら別にいいから。納得できる理由だったら浮気とは思わないかも。
例えば、どういう
付き合い？
例えば上司とかの。
怒るけど、言ってもまだ許せる。風俗なら。なんか日本ならではのなんか文化じゃないけど、やっぱり有名じゃないですか。風俗とかっていうのが。そういう意味では、日本ならではで、そう。
This is very.
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to speak too much.
Well, I was gonna say that's very Roman attitude. I like it.
No, yeah. Well, so in Japan, like they don't believe that prostitution is cheating, you know, and I mean, that comes back to what we were talking about, like what is cultural and what is like what's nature, what's nurture, you know, like what is happening because of what's around us and what is happening because of our biological instincts. In my opinion, I lean more that a lot of things are not biological. I think that we are meant to override our biological instincts, and that most of it is actually societal, and which is shown like clearly that's not the opinion of.
Sorry, what do you mean by meant to override our biological impulses?
I think that like if we theoretically, if we just like went via our whole biological instincts, like men would be murdering people all the time, because essentially if you believe in evolution, you believe that we're just monkeys, and like they're inherently pretty fucking violent unless you're a bonobo. So like we would just be killing each other and raping each other all the time. Animals rape each other all the time. Like you have to, like, there is a level of overriding those biological instincts that exist within us as animals. You know, like I guess that overriding that instinct is what our cerebral cortex is for, is to override that.
Kyle, go ahead.
Okay, so the one interesting thing that I picked up, and you guys probably didn't like, this didn't spin for you like it did for me in my head, but the one thing that I kind of picked up from this was that the women don't care that the man is sleeping with other women. I think that's largely because she doesn't interpret that as him pouring his resources and his time and his effort into another woman, because he's
literally pouring his resources into another person.
Yeah, because he's a prostitute.
Follow me, just track with me here for a second, right? You're paying somebody, but it's not like you're devoting your emotional time, effort. You're not like putting your whole life up with this woman. You're just, it's like you're taking a shit, right? Where like, if you could have a nice toilet that feels nice on your ass and nice toilet paper, then that's great. But like, if you could go behind the Starbucks dumpster and the girl drops her LG chocolate and you're still getting laid, then you don't care. That's essentially what I think, what they're kind of getting at, is that they don't really care that their man's doing it, as long as he's honest about it. And he's not saying like, hey, I'm no longer going to provide for you, I'm going to go do this. Like they don't. She
You're
knows
assuming that they're being provided for, though, because like they're saying
like,
they're boyfriends and everything, which doesn't
But they're asking
necess-
if it's cheating, right? So this implies that if you're in a relationship, right? If they're asking if it's cheating, if you're in a relationship and the guy goes and pays for a prostitute, they don't consider that cheating.
Yeah.
And once again, my understanding of this and what I think the rationale is that, like, hey, he's just getting his rocks off, but he's still going to come back to me and care for me at the end of the day. Now, if he broke up with me and got with this prostitute, then that'd be an issue. At least that's how I see this. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I agree with that take. I think there's a safety in the transactional nature of the sex.
Yes,
exactly.
For sure.
Right.
Well, it's like, there are women that think it's cheating if a man goes to a strip club. I've never, but I've probably because I worked in the industry since I was 19. So I like understand how it works. And I know that I'm like, she ain't gonna fuck your boyfriend. But like, like it's just not the nature of how that business works. But like, there are women that will be like, that is cheating. If you go to a strip club, you are cheating on me. I know women like this. So, and it's and I would say like in America, the viewpoint is more so if you go to a prostitute, you are cheating. But that is a very American way to think about it. If you even go to a strip club, that's cheating in a lot of women's minds.
Well, it's funny in the weirdo communities, right? Online, at least, when people show up, especially couples who are looking to have like their first threesome with another woman, they're often pointed to sex workers. And it's like, hey, if you're worried about jealousy and how to navigate that stuff, go to a sex worker. Like, don't try to don't fuck someone else's life up because you guys are fucking idiots. Like, go to somebody, pay for it, and that will allow you to like navigate it with less of the feelings. Because otherwise it's either going to be somebody that they're already friends with and there's a lot of like potential drama there, or it's going to be somebody that one of them is going out and like hitting on and picking up, and then that's going to open up a whole can of fucking like emotional things. Most of the time it's just people who aren't ready for the emotional labor to like bring other people into your bedroom and start navigating and communicating all that shit. But it's really funny that that's like the solution is like, listen, there's people who will happily take your money and give you a great time, and it's like it's a win-win all around. But it's the top go-to advice for new people looking to explore threesomes is go see sex workers.
Yeah.
No, I think I understand that because once again, there's no like emotional investment. This is just strictly transactional. And once again, in my mind, men are a lot more able to separate this than most women. No, so I said most. Let's be honest here. It's most.
Interesting.
I will also say though that so some men actually do go to prostitutes and strippers for emotional connection, especially men. And so and prostitutes can feign that, and so can strippers. Like, so they can, especially
this is why guys pay for OnlyFans so much, because they want to feel like they're a part of the storyline
relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
And so so they have, like, if a stripper is empathetic, which is what you need to be good at that job, in my personal opinion, or stripper, sex worker, prostitute, whatever, then they can meet them and like become empathetic and give them that emotional connection that they need, that they can't get in relationships. Like, I mean, it's like, is it feigning? I don't even know sometimes. Like, I've seen strippers, doesn't almost feel like they're pretending, because it's like that it's emotionally draining on them. Like, they definitely feel the repercussion, like the emotional drain.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say that like your job is emotionally draining, right? I mean, if you're being paid for that, then yeah, it's absolutely going to be draining. But like, you want to make sure that you're giving somebody their money's worth. So like, for a lot of those guys, and I think this kind of goes back to a point you've made before on an old show, is that like guys who haven't maxed out these kind of three dimensions of what women will find attractive in a man, if they just have like the money aspect, then that's what they'll buy, because they don't want to be alone, but they haven't gone to the gym, they haven't worked on their own personal charm. They'll just say, hey, I'll go pay a stripper and get my rocks off. To forsake all else, I'm going to pursue my career to the maximum degree, and then I'll pay for these connections. I think that's lame. I think you should max out all three. I think you should be a charismatic person. I think you should lift weights, and I think you should have a good relationship with somebody, but like, and obviously be good in your career.
There's more nuance here, because I'm talking about like widows, like men that are widows that like can't, they're having like they can't emotionally connect. There was a lot of widows that would come to the strip club. There was paraplegics, men that can't move. They can't move.
Okay,
basically.
but I mean, we're like, talking about like very, very small.
No, of course. But what I'm
yeah.
saying is like it's nuanced. Like there is a lot of reasons why men, like if they can't have emotional connection outside of that, which is also one reason why I actually think sex work and strip clubs and these things are actually very important. I know a lot of people might disagree with me because they're like, it's just a symbol of the decay of culture, but I've seen a lot of people that needed it. And I don't think people realize that there are people that actually need this service.
I mean,
just because it's a small percentage of people doesn't mean that it doesn't matter.
Is that more indicative though of a lack of like intimacy on the side of men at societal like levels, or is it, you know, like men going to these places and getting like therapy, or is it like men who are like feeling like they're not...
therapy too, for sure. Men literally, it's cheaper therapy if you think about it.
Well,
like men would go to the strip club literally for cheaper therapy, and probably prostitutes as well. Like they literally would like tell girls like their entire life story. There was this one guy that would come in who used to be a professional baseball player, and he would come in and show everyone pictures of himself when he was a professional baseball player, and he's like, look how hot I was so hot, and he just wanted, and he's like, and I'm still hot, and then he would cry about how his wife doesn't fuck him anymore, and it was like very sad.
all the sex workers I know say it's like 10 minutes of work and 2 hours of talk therapy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's a lot of people
intrigued.
a lot of people do not understand that about strip clubs and prostitutes. This is not which I think is why I have a lot of respect for the profession that a lot of people don't have, because they actually don't know. And not every stripper is like that or is good at that. Like there are some girls that are just the party girls that are at the strip club that are going to like dance around and do that shit. And like that is definitely an appeal for certain men. But like there are a lot of very wealthy men that are going in there basically for cheaper therapy.
So Kyle, this ties into a point that you brought up, and I think it's interesting, right? Like I think by bringing money into the equation, it actually flips the coin. I think like the common advice, so to reflect on how people are looking at it, is like for women, it's like don't fall in love until you kind of like have some proof that they want to stick around. The common advice for men is don't fall in love with a stripper. Right, like it's like that's right, but it's the kind of thing where, you know, once you bring money into it, men are actually, I think, have a more difficult time separating the emotion that they're paying for versus the emotion that like would be a real like organic connection.
So there is a theory I heard, and I really, really like this theory. It was called the error management theory, and I don't know who coined it.
Error management?
Error, like as in like 404 error.
Yeah.
Like where men interpret all positive interactions from women as sexual interest, whereas women interpret all positive interaction as, you know, it's just like, hey, he's just being nice.
Friendliness,
which actually is very, very interesting. But like in this respect, it's like, okay, well, the guy is going to the strip club because he's lonely and he wants that positive interaction because he's no longer able to, he can't fulfill on one of these aspects. Like he's not willing to go to the gym. He's not willing to, become a better person in some way. So he's willing to sacrifice what he works very, very hard at and what he's very, very good at, which is making money, to get that connection rather than, calm it here in the career aspect. Like, once again, you got to think about these like three levers, whereas like, it's not necessarily like you can only max out in one. It's just like, well, if you want to max out in one, you may sacrifice that to the detriment of others, if that makes sense. So like these guys who are going to strip clubs, like you were saying, the one dude who plays baseball, he no longer wants to get up and do all the stuff that made him that number one fucking baseball player that everybody loved and everybody thought was so hot. He's no longer willing to do all that same work.
He was like 55. Like
but
he's old. Like,
yeah.
no, but he'll never be where he was when he was
right.
fucking a professional baseball player.
Yes.
And
You're
no
right.
matter, no, he was not in bad shape. He was not, it wasn't like he looked bad for a 55-year-old. He actually looked pretty fucking good for a 55-year-old. His stress.
Are you saying you consoled him?
Okay, to be completely no, actually, I haven't talked about this. I was never a stripper, but I, as a manager, was allowed to go up in the champagne room with guests, and they had to pay triple. It was like double the amount. I never took my clothes off, so the only reason people did it would just to be to like
connection.
No.
The environment?
No, to flaunt their money, to flaunt how rich they were. Like, bringing up the manager, that means that you've got bank. Like, they would bring up floor hosts. They would bring up, like, dudes. They'd bring up dudes to up there with strippers. Like, a lot of times they would bring strippers with me. But, like, this guy, the baseball player, was someone that I actually, who brought me up. So I know his shit, and he literally was a like cried type of thing, and his situation was definitely not like he
Typical?
wasn't like working on himself. It was the fact that I think like it's like when you peaked in high school and you're like still going back to that like time period and you can't let it go. That's what it felt like. But he also had like he was showing me pictures of his wife and like how she didn't like sleep with him anymore and like how like they don't talk and all of this stuff. And like it was like therapy 100%. It was literally a therapy session. And like it wasn't like that particular experience wasn't like unique to me because I was the manager. They would do that with all of the strippers, you know? Yeah. Like, I think that what you keep saying is that you think that it's always about sex, and that
no, I'm not saying
I didn't even take my clothes off. I was completely fucking clothed.
No, I don't think it's about
sex
at all. Well, I don't think it is about sex to a degree, but like in some respects, like I think guys who legitimately are not being fucked by their wives do want that connection because obviously we want to have sex, but at the same time we also value sex because of the connection that we're having with that person, right? But like for the vast majority, men just want to get off because they want to get off, but there is a connection aspect to it. Like, you're not just, if you're in a relationship with for a long time with somebody, then obviously you desire that person and you want to maintain that connection. So there's, in my mind, a guy has to become, right? All guys have some kind of hill that they have to climb to become, the best version of themselves, right? Like this guy did. I'm sure he worked his ass off to get to where he was. But at some point along the way, if you're in a strip club crying to women that you do not know, there's an issue.
Yeah. Well, Ryan.
I was going to ask if you think that the men that are winding up in this place are lonely, and then they only know how to get to intimacy through sexual means. Right. So like through like sexual channels. Right. And even if you're not having sex or even if you're not seeing the stripper naked or having any physical contact, it's still a sexual context. Sure. Right. So is this kind of speaking to, because I've heard this mentioned, I'm not plugged in enough, but I hear whispers from people talking about it.
I think that's what makes you such a great contribution to this whole deal. I'm being honest. I'm not fluffing you. I'm being that's
but I've heard people mention that like there's a problem with men being lonely, and I struggle with that because the men in my community are fucking everywhere. They're nerds.
So I think as a consequence of the global sexual marketplace, that women have the perception that they have a lot more options than they actually do, and then guys who have a lot of money, they also interpret this as they have a lot more options than they actually do. But the truth is, you're limited here, right? So like the guys who are in the bottom rung, who let's say maybe maxed out in their like career and make a lot of money, but like aren't a good person and don't look good, they'll gladly pay for that interaction and intimacy because they don't know how to get it via any other means.
I also genuinely believe that men feel more comfortable going to a stripper for therapy than going to a therapist. I think that a lot of men feel like it's less gay to go to a strip club and talk to a girl. No, for real. No. Like, for real. Like, I genuinely believe this. I genuinely think that men feel like it's, like, more socially acceptable for them to go to a strip club and talk about their feelings than to actually go to therapy.
All right, business idea. Can we start a strip club that is staffed by qualified professional
therapists? They have to meet, like, an appearance fucking shit. Like,
I mean,
imagine the shit
yeah,
that
but-
I'm gonna have to deal with there. Like, they have to be hot.
I think you can train therapists to be strippers, and
No,
I think
to
there's- I
be
think- I
hot,
think-
you can't train a therapist to be hot, Ryan. I'm
If it-
sorry,
listen,
you can't.
Sure you
I've
can.
I've seen
Tell
the
her to,
movie
like,
where
pull
you
up till
take
she
the
pukes
glasses
between
off
kettlebells.
and you let the hair down. And then you're
Yeah,
hot.
okay. What are we gonna? This is like Princess Diaries.
That's
Like
right,
we're gonna give him a
Ryan-
makeover. Like, what
Ryan's
the
little
fuck,
pep talk
dude?
here has my shorts getting shorter by the second. I swear to God.
Okay, all right. We should probably start talking about the things that we.
We're gonna have to rename this because we're almost an hour and we have not talked about a
Guys,
single
I'm
thing.
sorry.
No, I love it.
We went on like so many tangents, but I was about it. I'm like, fuck. Maybe I shouldn't come up with topics. We should just
No,
like
no,
vibe for half.
we need to. You just put a maybe in the title there, and it's
Maybe
totally fine.
question mark?
Yeah, we'll
No,
talk about
I-
Russell, Boobert, Neuralink, maybe.
Russell Boobert.
Maybe.
Yep.
Actually, let's go with Boobert first.
Okay,
'cause
I'm
it's-
glad you said it because actually I want to talk about that more than anything else.
I really wanna talk about the Boobert.
Yeah, the Boobert.
Um,
Ryan, are
I
you
don't
familiar
think-
with this story at all?
I don't know.
So somebody was fingered in a movie theater.
Finger? I thought she just got
No.
a boob grab.
No. Okay, so well, you know what? While she's pulled up the video, basically what happened is
Give me a rundown.
Lauren Boebert is a very like staunchy conservative Republican from Colorado.
Sanctimonious cunt, normally.
This is
Right. Okay, so go ahead, play the video before
Congressional-
we comment further. She's the congresswoman,
Yeah.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Congresswoman
Okay.
of Colorado.
and she's pretty hot.
Oh, yeah, I would.
Like, look at that. Dude, he is grabbing a handful, and she goes down there and gropes his shit like there is nothing else. Look at that, both hands.
So wait, first of all, where did this
Oh.
video come from?
Can we?
Is it-
No,
it was
isn't
okay,
this
it was
like
in a
worries
theater.
me of the surveillance that is going on
Yeah.
in
Is this-
theaters?
Listen, can we just give her like a round of applause? Look at that shit. She
Dude.
was into it.
Honestly, do you want to hear like my opinion on this? I genuinely like this made me.
Please don't tell me you think it's a setup. Because
No,
I've
Oh no! I think this made me look at Lauren Boebert and be like, "Wow, you are an actual human being." Like, it made me like almost respect her a little bit because I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're a person." Like, she got kicked out for vaping. I'm like, "Girl, I get you. Like, I relate to you."
you guys
Like,
poke,
I would
poke
maybe
your douche flutes and drive your Subarus.
not a setup, but then I was also thinking, I was like, I'm not saying it's a setup, but I'm like, if I was Lauren Boebert and she was trying to attract like the younger audience to get attention, like this might be like something that she would want to
Posting the hand
happen
jobs
for
for clout.
attention. Like, no, literally, like potentially she could want this to happen because it could get her. It might seem all publicity is good publicity, baby. So like it might seem like bad publicity on the conservative end, but like it might get her new votes for people who are like, wow, this person's
Understandable.
like a real human. Like she is like people are talking shit, calling her names, like calling her a whore. There are Republicans that are like, this is like disgraceful, and it's like
Well,
this.
Yeah. Go, Ryan, go ahead and I'll.
Well, so my understanding is that she is very she's very spoken about like cultural, like how people should be behaving, right?
Yes.
And like, so I think my only I don't have a problem with this at all. I mean,
No,
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about the camera than I am concerned about the actions. Like, is that in the movie theater or is that a person? Like, I don't know what the
Well,
fuck.
they
where did that
were
video-
watching a musical Beetlejuice, and this actually was like supposedly there were kids there too. Which is the funniest part about this is like they'll be the first ones to rail against the groomers and stuff like that. And like, yes, I think that stuff is absolutely worse than what she did. But like, you can't sit here and say, "Oh, all groomers are bad," and then go stroke your boy toy's dick.
It was dark as
in a
shit in
country.
there.
Right, but you
like-
get what I'm saying.
No, like I don't.
Oh, come on.
because
No,
to even,
come
I'm
on.
sorry. I genuinely don't because it was dark as shit in there. And anyone yes, because it was a night camera, it looks brighter. Like there is no one that saw what was going on. Like I know for a fact. I have done enough dirty shit in a movie theater to fucking know there is no fucking way anyone saw what was
Glad to
going
know
on.
you'll
That's a round of
glad-
applause. Yeah, that's a round of applause.
Glad to know you'll put out anytime, anywhere. Just
I
so we're
mean,
clear about that.
Listen, I've rounded some bases in a movie theater. I'm
Yeah,
not
like,
one
what
of
the
I
those
mean,
fuck?
okay, who hasn't? But look, the point is that if you're going to sanctimoniously preach
I
to
do
people
agree with
about how
this,
they should
yes.
behave, then
Mhm.
you cannot be going, giving a dude a rub and tug in the movie theater. And not that you literally did, but like the
It's the
Once again, if
hypocrisy.
there are-
It's the
right,
hypocrisy.
it's the
Yes.
hypocrisy, and
I
then on
agree
top
with
of that,
that.
like if you can't wait till you get outside and like get in the car and shit like that. And, like
Absolutely
they're like
not.
dancing on their
Not
way.
always.
Come on,
You
like
just-
No.
and especially if you're going to promote yourself as this Christian trad woman who's
No,
divorced,
then-
a single mother. Okay,
I agree.
but you catch my drift. If we're
Yes.
looking from their worldview, this
Yes.
is wrong, and it is
Yes.
wrong. And
Well, wrong.
I
No,
don't.
they're
wrong
just
from their world-
hypocrites.
Wrong from
Hypocrites,
their
right.
world. Wrong from their worldview. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I don't have a problem with this, but like, if there are kids around, okay, it didn't look like there were any kids in the immediate vicinity, but like,
I love how when she made a response video and it was like, I don't talk to him. She's like, the one thing I know is like always check someone's voter registration.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
it
yeah.
turned out he was a Democrat, and I was like, you're acting like you can't fucking date someone that isn't of the
The-
opposite fucking. That pissed me
Well,
off because
yeah,
I
and
believe
this-
Democrats
yeah.
and Republicans can date. Like my
Yeah.
mom's best friend was a Democrat. My mom's a fucking neocon. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand this perspective that the two parties can't even like commingle.
They used to be able to fine
Yes,
until
I
like
know.
15
I
years
think
ago.
it's just because the government has gotten so big to the point where like every side feels like they have to win the culture war or like the
Yeah.
presidency so that way they can force their will on everybody else. But like that being said,
I think that's 24-hour news. Like it's the sport,
Exactly,
the
right.
sportsification of
the blood
politics.
sport of
Yes.
politics, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like, but that being said, like even if this is a setup, like some people have said, then like she saw us to have the hots for him for this to be a setup. Like she
For
saw us to have genuine attraction for
wanted
this
to
dude
smash.
to give him. She still has to want to ride that dude to glory in order
She
for this
probably
to be a setup.
did after
She
we don't know what
probably did.
happened.
Listen,
Like-
if you watch the security video, there's like a 2-minute video of them like walking out together, and she literally like he picks her up essentially, and she twirls around like she was into this guy.
Obviously.
So even if this was a setup, then okay, but like,
Also
she
to
still had to be
pretend like
attracted to
she
him.
didn't know he was a Democrat. Like, come on. Like,
Oh, yeah.
one, you're
But
a
this
fucking
scores her points.
congresswoman. You're a
Yeah.
fucking congresswoman. You're gonna act like nobody talks about the fact that you are a Republican congresswoman and this man
Right.
was not gonna bring up the fact that he's a Democrat. She fucking knew that. She knew
Oh, dude,
that. There is
it's
no
totally,
way.
Yeah, it's totally fucking a congresswoman for clout. That's totally what this dude was doing.
Is there
know.
is there
I don't know
anything
about
we
that.
disagree
Yes.
about on this? Is there anything, do we have any hot takes on this video? By the way, I think we're all just kind of.
No. I mean, my take is that this actually weirdly made me like her a little bit, which is like I've always hated this bitch, so I was like, fuck, like now I like kind of like you.
Well, now you saw how hot she is, so you're like, oh,
Well,
hey,
I've always known she was kind of hot. Like I think AOC's hot, and I fucking hate her. Like that doesn't mean shit to me. Okay. Should we move on to God, this topic, Russell fucking Brand. I have a feeling that this is gonna be
I think it
So
should be a
I
lot.
don't.
less
So I don't know anything about this. You got to inform me completely. I thought he was an actor.
I think it's going to be
He
a
is.
lot less contentious than you think.
You think? I don't
That's
know.
what I think.
Well, I mean, so all right. So Russell Brand
You're a little
has
far away from your mic there. You
Oh,
go.
sorry. Russell Brand
No,
has
it's
been accused of he has 4 victims that are accusing him of sexual assault.
Okay, there you go.
And a lot of people are saying that this is like a setup because he has now he's created like he's joined like the alternative media basically. He just got demonetized from YouTube because of this. He is
But not Rumble. Rumble stood strong, which I
well.
fucking paid.
Doesn't Rumble always stay strong?
What's Rumble?
It's a alternative. It's an alternative video channel. This goes up on Rumble because it's on my channel.
So
God, Ryan, I
this
love
is
you.
one where Russell
And I said-
Brand.
Ryan, if I was
No.
gay, I
thought
think
I was
I would probably be one of those dudes that's slightly into you.
Oh wow, this is romantic. Okay. Hold on, please. All right, let's.
Oh, I like the
let's-
bone. That's cool.
with. And I said,
What the fuck? What? Go.
Leave it to the woman to fuck everyone
no one.
up.
It's
I've
my
never had
life.
sex with anyone. And he got an erection straight away. And he was like,
Nice.
oh my God, he's like, my baby,
Giggity.
and picked me up and cradled me in his arms like a child and was stroking my hair. He's like, you're like my little dolly.
Is he saying this to a 16-year-old? Is that?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
I
Okay,
mean,
so so
behaviors.
were they hanging out when she was 16?
Yes.
So
But
th-
the
this-
So that's verified.
sta-
That's verified.
yeah, it's verified. But the statute of the statute of limitations in California.
I
is
mean,
16.
listen, the statute
Wasn't
of
it
limitations is a bad look when you're
No,
like,
not a statute. That's not what the word is. Not statute of limitations. Age of consent. Sorry, statute of
the
limitations.
age of consent wasn't this in Britain? In this age of consent in Britain, and look, I'm
No,
not
it
endorsing
wasn't.
this one way or
I'm
the
pretty
other.
sure she was in. I thought she was in California because
I'll take a stance.
I'm not
I'll
sure.
endorse it one way. I'll say that's a
Oh,
bad
boy.
look.
I might be
You
wrong.
shouldn't be hanging
Well,
out with
okay.
16-year-olds.
No, I agree, but like from
I'll
what I
agree, too.
understand, the age of the age of consent where she was actually 16 years old, and she wasn't like, look, you're Russell Brand, you're like a
Wait,
famous dude.
Wait, go back up to the headline. there.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be boning 16-year-olds.
Russell Brand used a BBC chauffeur to pick up a teenage girl from school as another alleged victim.
From
plays
school, as
comic-
in from high school.
I'm assuming comic raped her weeks before starring as Willy Wonka at London Olympic ceremony. Also, like, this is, so I am not picking sides here because
No, me neither.
this is the media. Like, I don't believe in trial by media. Like, I believe like court of law type of shit. Like, I'm not saying that he didn't do it. But yeah, let me just, I feel like,
Well, does anybody have a stance here that's like you know, if it's true, you fuck them. If it's not true, let the truth come out, kind of thing.
I could easily be swayed, honestly, either way. Like,
Can I-
Russell Brand is a very, very weird dude. If they came out tomorrow and said like, hey, all this stuff is factually true and we have evidence, I'd be like, okay. But if they said like all the stuff tomorrow was wrong, I'd be like,
litany of astonishing, rather.
this is his statement, which I think
Sure.
should be part of this.
It's this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies. And as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play?
So, okay.
I like those t-shirts.
The one thing that I don't like that he's immediately acting like there's another agenda at play, and that's like the immediate
That's the alt media
response.
grift. That's the alt media grift.
No, I know. I don't like that. Also, the other thing is, like, he has admitted many times that he was a drug addict, that he was an alcoholic, that he
A
had
womanizer.
been,
too.
yeah, like,
Not that I
knowing
care
that,
about but yeah.
well, no, but like, as someone that was also a drug addict, I can admit that I did a lot of fucking things that I'm not fucking proud of, and like, I honestly was hoping, like, if he did do these things, I know that it would not be litigiously intelligent for him to say, I'm sorry, I made mistakes and I fucked up and I did these things, because litigiously, if he's admitted to that, he could be brought to court. And so I think that people don't understand that. Like, he can't admit to it if he did it. There's no way. If he admits that this is correct, that he committed these crimes, he will end up being able to have a court case against him. So his only option is to deny. I'm not saying I think I'm 100% he did it. I'm just saying that it is definitely possible with his history, and like the details of the story seem like there's definitely some fucked up shit that he might have done.
Right.
And it's like, to be fair, this wouldn't, if he's like, yeah, I was a fucked up guy, I made fucked up mistakes, I'm sorry. Honestly, I would be like, okay, I respect that you admit that. Maybe like pay them out or something. That's all you need to do. Like, maybe he could make a deal with them and be like, I'll pay you guys out for your like pain and suffering or something. I don't like.
I mean,
it's
well,
like
that's an
nobody
interesting
can
question.
nobody can admit to like these
Fault.
flaws, the faults that might have existed, like that they might have actually committed it.
So I generally agree with that. I'm a big fan of like, you know, mistakes are a part of how people grow and how society grows, and forgiveness is a big part of that as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, the general rule where almost everybody comes together is like fucking kids, and like if he's doing these things to teenagers, as a fucking like I don't know that happened, but if it happened, it's like I don't know if he should be paying out somebody who was, you know, sexually assaulted as a 16-year-old. Like that's probably, you should probably go to jail. Like,
Well, no, well, so
I don't
here,
think that's a
okay,
hot take.
all right. No, well, I feel like I'm gonna have a hot take here because
Okay, I love it. Let's bring it on.
because I was 16 and I was fucking dating someone in their like mid 20s, and like I don't consider that sexual
We
assault.
call that person a pedophile.
No, I didn't have sex with him. To be fair, I was a virgin until I was 19, but I like was dating. I brought him to my prom. He was actually a substitute teacher in my middle school, which is actually probably more creepy. But
Hey, Mr. Smith.
So I mean, like it sounds like that person didn't sexually assault you. So
no, he didn't. I mean, we
that's
did other
good.
stuff. I just didn't have sex with him. But like, yeah, we had like other sexual relations. Like I didn't have penetrative sex till I was 19.
So
but you know what I mean?
here's my hot take, Kyle. You may not like this.
No, I'm all ears, man. You know me.
I think if you do anything with a 16 or 17-year-old and it's fully consensual and that's great and that's fine, and then 5 years later they change their mind and they pursue you, that's on you. That's a fucking you're playing with it. It's literally like, you know, like I don't know how this person's going to feel about how our interactions went, but the power, like by basically engaging in whatever
playing
activities.
with fire. Well, this
It's
was also what 20 years ago. Like the time, I would say that
Hold on.
the
Let Ryan
temperature
finish.
was different.
Yeah, so to me, right, like, because I hate the idea of a consensual sexual experience happening and then somebody later going back on it and changing in the narrative and how that goes, right? And I'm a big fan of like, let's find out what happened. Let's really, like, you know, like let's really get to the root of this before we crucify people.
Yeah.
Right. I throw that out the door if it's with a fucking kid. Like, I don't care if it's like, oh, they wanted it and it was legal. Like, you're opening yourself up to somebody being like, hey, I feel traumatized now.
But if it was legal, are they a kid?
Well, you know what? I'm actually, Ryan, you're gonna be
Where does the kid
generally
start?
I'm generally with you. Now, like we're gonna get an age consent thing, and like this is such a bad.
I know, well, because the age of
like,
consent in Maine is 16, so like
sure.
that's
Okay,
why
but,
when
like-
I was 16, I could hang out with someone that was in their mid 20s, and it was legal, you know, no issues.
Okay, but like, so we understand that like generally people are going to mature at like different rates, but I think we could all generally agree that like a 16-year-old probably not a fully autonomous, responsible person that's like fully understands the consequence of their actions. When you get to 18, you're still not even relatively.
I would say
that
until
way,
you're
to be honest.
25. Are we gonna say until you're 25 you can't?
No,
like, have
no, because
correlate-
you know what? When
No,
I was
but for
22 years
real,
old,
though.
I bought my house when I was 22, and I knew exactly everything that I was doing before I met my wife and all that stuff. So like, I don't know the answer to this, and I'm perfectly okay with saying that because like I said, different people are going to mature differently. People who had harder childhoods may be a little bit mature a little bit earlier because they may have had to, you know, work when they were kids to help pay bills around the house, whereas somebody who is a little bit more pampered may mature a little bit later. I'm not putting moral judgments on any of this. I'm just saying people are going to mature a little bit differently. But like a 16-year-old, and especially if you're like in, you know, even in your 20s.
How old was Russell Brand when the 16 was? Like, 40s?
Exactly. Like you
I'm pretty
probably
sure
should have
he
been
was
like
30.
Hey, yeah, like,
From
if
what
you're
I
a 30-year-old
heard.
bone and a 16-year-old, you should probably be like, I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
and
I will agree with that. I'm not saying that I don't think that there is
Sure.
something morally fucked up about it. I do. I'm saying like legally he didn't do anything wrong, and if it was consensual, right? If it was consensual,
consent.
Yes.
But
And-
let's go ahead, Brandy. I don't want to keep interrupting. I'm sorry.
no. Continue. It's fine.
So I bullied you. I'm sorry. I think, though, this is actually the
Stop,
correct
please.
area for this to happen, right? So I think the law should be broader than is necessary. because it's like let's not get anything wrong, right? Let's have the law be as lenient as like it's like, all right, we're gonna stay hands off and say like, you know, this is however you guys want to decide, that's fine. And then culturally we come together and go, hey, 16-year-olds are legal, but don't be a fucking creep, don't be a fucking asshole, like you know,
Yeah.
like. And so this is the cultural punishment for that. Like, so I don't think we should bring the law into it until, you know, this kind of thing happens, where it's like if I like, it's, to me, you know, you were like the media agenda, the kind of like thing. That's kind of like an immune response for society. Like everyone is like, you know, pedophiles have no fucking like sanctuary in prison. Like no, it's the one thing the conservatives and liberals agree on is fucking don't be a pedophile.
I would, yes. I would
Sorry,
agree with that.
pedophiles, you got a bad lot.
Okay, did you have more to say? I have one thing.
No, go ahead. I mean, like,
Okay.
I'm just, yeah.
So, like, when it comes to this stuff, though, we also can't discount the fact that, like, there are certain situations where people will come out of the woodwork after like 10, 15 years afterwards. And this is on women to come forward as soon as possible. And I understand it's going to hurt. I understand it's going to be sensitive, but like you need to come forward as soon as possible to make sure that the people who may have did you wrong suffer, because they absolutely deserve to suffer. But if you're coming out of the woodwork, you know, 10, 15, 20 years later, then you have no proof any longer. And therefore, you know, it doesn't hold the same weight as it once did. And this is what happens a lot, is that people cancel people over shit like this. Or, you know, let's say you had a bad sexual experience and now you decide, oh, well, maybe I didn't want to do that. Okay, well, now women have the power to say, like, I will absolutely destroy your life over this allegation. And that is fucked up. Once again, it should be, you know, innocent until proven guilty. But now essentially with these kind of accusations, it's guilty until proven innocent. And you can't really prove yourself innocent in these kind of situations. And, you know, once again, if you were sexually mistreated or someone did a moral wrong to you, you should absolutely be served justice and that person should suffer. But like, if you're waiting 10, 20, 15 years or whatever for it, then I'm sorry, there's not much that can be done for you.
I mean, Brandon, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of thoughts, because one aspect I will say, like, not something that I like I even marinate on, but like it's like fucked up, because like especially when I was like doing a lot of like Xanax and stuff, and like I was like super fucked up, I had experiences that I didn't even realize were sexual assault until like later on reflecting on it.
Okay,
because I was so fucked up in that moment. I had
don't
no
wanna-
idea
okay,
what
look,
was happening.
I
But
do-
like I would
yeah.
never, to be fair, because of who I am as a person, I take responsibility for that
Sure.
because of how
Okay.
fucked up I was.
Right,
So,
but I
you
just
know.
want to interject this here. You understand, and I'm not victim blaming, but like you understand, you put yourself in that situation. So like when somebody gets drunk around people they don't trust, I'm not saying it's right for other people to do whatever they want with somebody, right? Look,
Mhm.
I'm making that abundantly clear right now. But
Yeah.
you still put yourself in the situation
Yeah.
that something bad could happen to you. Like you
Yeah.
don't go
Well,
drinking in
people
the bad.
get fucked. Like that's the this
But
is
but like you don't go drinking in the bad side of town that
Yeah.
you know bad shit happens in. Like, or like you don't go down to the city without like a designated driver because you know the situation. Do not put yourself in situations where you can be mistreated. Always have reliable people that you trust around you. You don't go to the club by yourself and get absolutely annihilated.
Well, when you're 16, you don't know. To be fair,
Right, no,
like,
and
and
what,
so
right. But I'm
Right,
saying
yeah.
like if you're an adult and you're doing this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
then
But
I'm sorry, but like I'm not saying you brought this on yourself, but like you put yourself in a situation where this can happen. Do not put yourself in those situations.
I mean, I
So-
think that should probably be like discuss maybe more of having, which I think it is now. I think that maybe during this
Sure.
time period, and definitely when I was younger, it was not as much.
Sure.
Like this wasn't as much of a talking point of like any of this. Like it just wasn't. And yeah, I don't know. I think that definitely now it's like way more forefront, and everyone, like, I'm sure everyone's terrified to even like go on a consensual date. But like back in the day, like that was not the way it was. So we have to understand this is a completely different time period
Yeah,
for
well,
everyone
and-
involved.
Well, so
Yeah.
Kyle, I want to jump into that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So because what you're saying has wisdom, right? And there's a big argument of like the reality of the situation versus how the world should be, right? And it's like the utopia we're aiming for versus the fucking, the world
The
we live in.
flawed beings we are.
the problem with that argument of like, oh, protect yourself, these sort of things, like so Boston is having a major problem right now with date raping drinks.
The roofies.
The roofie problem. So people like we don't know what's going on, but people are roofieing drinks aggressively across the city. It doesn't seem to be like people. So like it's like like cover.
What if they're roofing? Because they're not actually. Because isn't it not like people are getting roofied, but they're not actually getting raped?
Correct.
Like I've heard, no, but maybe there are people that are literally doing this for the lulz.
Okay, but I mean,
when
like,
you get roofied, you're
where's the line? Like, so should women just not be going out to bars in Boston now? Because
well, like you should bring somebody with you, but like the guys who are doing the roofing, or I shouldn't say the guys, but like anybody who is doing this roofing, because there could be women doing this too, you should be taken out back and then beaten senseless and then thrown in jail for the rest of your life because you are doing something that is not somebody's consent. Like I have no pity for you at that point. You deserve every ounce of justice that is served to you because that is morally wrong. Now, that being said, if you are a woman and you are worried about this stuff, you should absolutely take somebody with you just so that way if something like this does happen.
Who the fuck goes to the bar alone?
But that's my point. Like, bring somebody you trust with you.
Bring a book, get a glass of whiskey, have some wings.
This kind of goes back to like a little bit of the last show. Where are the fathers? Where are the brothers? Where are the sisters? Where are the people who like
listen? So
they live in Florida, Kyle.
I love Florida.
I live in Boston. What do you want from me?
Even with that feels bad, right? Like if you're saying that you can't go to like, because I get that I want to lean in on the wisdom of like, oh, at certain in certain environments, but this is taking all of it out of that, right? I think it's really just
okay. But then but then like, and what I'm not saying this is right, but like, if you know this is a potential, then always bring somebody with you.
Then the
so you should always be worried about the potential of rape as a woman,
right?
It's like kind of like that's basically. This is actually Camille Paglia's like viewpoint. I love Camille Paglia. She's like one of my gods, but one of her viewpoints is that due to like biological men's biological impulses, she actually believes that, like she genuinely believes that you should always assume that because that is an impulse in men and you should always think about their biological instincts.
I think that's like
I don't know how I feel about this, to be
it's a bad way to interact in the world, in my opinion, but it is something to at least be aware of. Yeah, it's safe, but like, I'm not saying necessarily that. I just think
it puts women in a bad mindset if they're always I could potentially be raped. Like I would never, like would not do that because that would just ruin my fucking mood.
Yeah, but like, do you want, like, you're not going to go up to every single guy that you interact with and assume that he's going to rape you. Like,
no.
Generally, I would think that most women probably see like guys as either like, hey, if this guy's coming up to me and interacting with me, he probably thinks I'm attractive. Either that or like he just wants to talk to me or something like that. Like, you generally don't think he's going to put a gun in my mouth and tell me that he wants to rape me. Like, that's not what regular people think. At least I've never experienced that.
No.
I think there are women who have that fear. And I think all it takes is really, I agree. And I think that this is one of my biggest gripes with the like modern like male culture, especially in like the wake of like failed dating, the incel and that sort of thing, is the retaliation where you're like, I get rejected, I get mad at you or I get angry at you or anything like that.
Yeah, that's an awful reaction.
It's a scorched earth policy that's ruining human interaction for everyone. Right. And it's like, but that's the sort of thing that like, I would never want to live in a world where women don't have the autonomy to enjoy a drink at a bar by themselves. Like that sounds horrible to me. Like that's not like, I think if that's the world we live in, we have failed as a gender. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree with that, but once again, I don't think the guys that are the guys like you and I who would like, if we were saying, or if we were looking for somebody, we're not going to do that. These are already pathological people. And once again, some people are going to fuck stuff up no matter what. There's bad people in the world. We are not going to raise bad people from the world. We have to control for that.
I would also say, like, don't assume that those pathological people aren't like attractive, successful people. Because sometimes
there's literally no way.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell.
But
them
like
apart.
the people who are roofing drinks are already bad people anyways. Like if it wasn't that, they would fuck something else up.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. The problem is there's clearly enough. There's enough happening. Like it's not an isolated incident. You know what I mean? Like this is happening all over the
Well,
city, in all kinds of bars.
Then don't go drink at Boston anymore. I mean, I'm not saying that that's good, but like,
No,
if that's the reality, then you may have to say like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm legitimately afraid for my safety. Like, I'm not going to go down to Pittsburgh and start screaming the N word because I don't want to get shot. I'm
well,
not saying these two
honestly, it
situations
should
are
just be
comparable.
being like everyone should just be mindful.
Right.
Like it really did just come down
And
to
well,
like
you know what?
it
Okay,
is
well, you know what?
individual
Yeah.
responsibility, but it sucks because there are a lot of young, like
Yeah, well-
genuinely, like as we said, the brain does not fully develop until you're 25. So we can all pretend like when everyone is a fucking adult, like whatever that means for like age is fucking arbitrary. I don't fucking know. All I know is that like a 22-year-old, some 22-year-olds are going to be way more mature than other 22-year-olds, and they're going to be able to like decipher the world around them than other ones that might have the mental capacity of that one 22-year-old when they were 16. Do you know what I mean? Like,
way to bring it back to the relevant starting point.
Yeah,
of the
well,
yeah.
topic.
Well,
I
so
also
I
wanna put-
genuinely think that like this matters because like you can't just make. Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought. God damn
No,
it!
that's okay. Well, real quick, I just want to say, like, also the bar should also develop an environment where people feel like safe enough that you know, like, even if I don't,
Well, you have to
know
protect your drink.
right, but like, just follow with me for a second. Like,
Yeah.
if you see somebody doing something like that, you should feel comfortable enough in that bar that, like, if you tell the bartender or if you are a guy, you can say, hey, don't fucking do that. Like, we're gonna get that shit dumped out. You're getting thrown out of here, and don't fucking do that shit again. Like, a bars should, like, as a business owner, not as a business owner, but like as somebody in my mind, if I were a business owner, I'd want to develop a culture within my bar that, like, if something like that happened, I would throw that fucker out immediately. I would have the cops called
They
on
don't
that guy.
know, though.
Yeah. But like, you would, once again, you'd want to develop the culture like, hey, if you have people coming here, then like you'd want your patrons to say like something like this.
How
This
do you
is
tell them
not how
apart?
bars work. Okay.
I know.
Like I'm telling
but
you
I'm
right
just
now,
saying,
like,
yeah.
well, like that's not how bars work. And also, like, for example, like to say like everyone should be mindful, right? Which is like, yes, ideally, for sure. But everyone's drinking. So like no one is like fully mindful and everyone's distracted and everyone's
What
doing
about the
their own thing.
bartender? The bartender should be mindful, right?
And a lot of bartenders in Boston get fucked up, but that's a completely different story. But like, yes, they can be mindful,
so
but it
we're admitting
doesn't.
fault.
No, I'm not even. I am not. To be fair, I think that it really does come down to individual responsibility, which is not the answer that everyone wants to hear, but it does. Like,
You're right.
it really fucking does. It because you cannot expect anyone else to save you. You have to save your fucking self. And if you are at a bar and you are drinking, unfortunately, and this is for men and women, it's not just a women thing. Like, you have to take responsibility for yourself. Ideally, you don't want to get too drunk either way, even though I'm someone that does often. Get your drink and hold it. Make sure you don't fucking leave that shit alone. Like that.
It's just the new culture we live in. Yeah.
Like you just have to take individual responsibility will always like end up being the only answer because you can't legislate something. Like the more you make like if you make a bar responsible for it, they're gonna make it hell. Like it's really will always come back to individual responsibility on that. And
I need to invent a chemical that reacts with Rohypnol, G, any of the date rape drugs, and
make it change color.
Yeah,
I don't even know what those are.
Those are the drugs that people are putting.
Dude, that would be dope. Do it. You can fucking sell it to all the bars, and they would fucking love it.
Hold on, I'm gonna write it down.
Write it down, Ryan. Write it down.
Hold on, let me get my little notebook here and fucking write that down.
We have our little scientist. He's making notes. All right. I have one last thing that I wanted to talk about because this like triggered the fuck out of me. Literally triggered the fuck out of me.
It's not hard.
It's not hard to trigger me? I would say it's very hard, actually. I'm
only messing. I'm
not easily triggered. Like, to be fair, like with what we were just talking about, what's wild is that I don't think, like, I literally have definitely experienced sexually assault that I have no emotional connection to, which is like fucked up. But like I've experienced things that would be considered 100% sexual assault, and I don't even feel trauma towards it. Like I just like, well, it was also like peak during like my drug addiction phase. Like I just like it's like it means nothing to me. It means nothing to me.
Trauma isn't Like, like
It's
those
not a
people go to
universal
war.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people go to war and like get fucking mortar fire blowing their friends up all around. They come home,
Yeah.
they're like, all right, well that sucked. And then other people, fucking, it's trauma. Like the human brain is fucking fascinating. We barely understand it. So it's like some people are very lucky and walk away from trauma. I've been sexually assaulted, and I'm just like, I'm glad it didn't go further than it did. And fucking, it's really wild to think about what impacts people and what doesn't, and like what.
Yeah.
I just, the thing is, I only ever want to anchor that as something like, don't judge people who experience something maybe like you were like, oh, I've had worse than that. Roll it off. It's like sometimes it really cripples fucking people.
It's relative for most people.
Yeah, like some people for some reason you're just like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, I don't really fully understand why that's a thing, but it's definitely a thing.
Fucking brains are wild, bro.
Hold on.
What's our last topic?
Oh God!
Did we skip we're skipping Neuralink.
I'm probably gonna skip Neuralink, I think.
No. All right.
No, wait.
This is all right. Hold on. Let me restart this. This is Sneeko. He's big in the red pill space. Andrew Tate's protege. Is that how
he's got a great name? Sneeko.
Sneeko.
I'm sorry. I think he's a fucking queer.
These kids love him.
Andrew Tate. Fuck the woman.
Did they think he's Andrew Tate? Or
No.
They're saying fuck the women.
We love women. We love women. But not like transgenders.
Yes, sir. We love everybody. No.
All gays can die.
All gays can die.
What have I done?
Fucking talk.
Yeah. Talk to him. Yo, what's up?
Yeah, so this like kind of triggered me to see these little boys kind of react this way, saying fuck women, and then they're like all gays must die. And then, oh God, like what bothers me about that is not that I think that they're a threat in any way, to be honest, but it's the fact that like this kind of messaging is like happening to these kids. It gives me a very uncomfortable, unsettling feeling because I don't even know how many kids are watching this. So I've like heard of other people talking about this where they're like, my 10-year-old brother is watching Andrew Tate and now he's becoming like pretty aggressive. Like it's just like weird. It's weird to me. I don't even understand how Andrew Tate is even attracting these kids, how they're even finding Andrew Tate and Sneeko. Like, where are they finding them?
It's because, they figured out how to hack the algorithm, and then, they get their shit propagated all over the place. I think Sneeko is a clown. I think he doesn't promote good values at all, and now he's pivoting over to being Islamic because... that's just the grift of the day.
Sneeko and Andrew Tate.
Yeah, they'll once again they're kind of doing anything for clout. That's the reason why Andrew Tate is kind of pivoting away from like the whole cam girl business. He's trying to appeal to the tradcons now because he realized that like the dissident media has a very, very large audience. It's very, very gullible too, and will pay you lots of money if you just say the right narratives. That's all you have to do, and you'll make millions if you do that shit. So that's why I think Andrew Tate and Sneeko are kind of doing. Now the reason why they're appealing is because they're not giving the same. Sure, maybe.
Why are they appealing to children? Is what I want to understand.
The children are probably watching, Mr. Beast and some of that like ADD shit on YouTube, and then that probably comes up in their algorithm, and they catch a video and they may not like think of it that much, and then it comes up again, and then all of a sudden they start searching for it. Like it's not like they're specifically looking this out, but I think like the YouTube algorithm probably just because like the videos that they're already watching are probably loosely related to that, and they probably get relayed in there. It's like the whole joke, and it's a literal thing that like if you watch 3 YouTube videos, eventually you're gonna get linked back to Jordan Peterson. I think that these guys are watching content that it's the same kind of deal. You watch 3 videos of Mr. Beast and Logan Paul, and then you get Andrew Tate. I think the kids kind of see that and they like it.
There's a Logan Paul to fucking Andrew Tate pipeline.
I'm using it's a rough,
no, but potentially,
it's a rough
but like that like freaks me out a little
understand?
bit. Yeah.
Does that make sense though?
Yes,
So,
but
like,
it still freaks me out. Like I
think
genuinely
these
think
guys-
that this is not good for young boys to be watching. Like I don't know what the fucking solution is. I'm not saying
okay.
fucking.
Well, the reason why I like what we're doing here is because we have a different, array of views here. We're like, we're not hard one way or the other. And like when it comes to Andrew Tate, now he's trying to be a trad con, but like, he appeals to the kind of like, the affluent male, a guy who has, looks, money, and status, and then gets lots of women and is able to do whatever he wants. Like guys look at that and see that as attractive. What they don't understand is that like it's almost like pathology in a way where like that's not a good way to go about your life, because like most guys aren't going to be able to achieve that kind of status. And then like you wouldn't also have that kind of relationship with a lot of women, and it's not a healthy relationship to have with women, where like you should want to be a highly affluent and good looking guy for your own sake, so that way you can live life the way that you see fit, rather than just look up to Andrew Tate and say like, hey, I want to drive a sports car and then have a cam girl business and beat women, and then get my name boosted in the algorithm. Like you should want to aspire something for yourself, so that way you could, leave the world a little bit better off than you found it.
I was just going to say maybe morality has a place in there somewhere, where it's like, I think the problem is kids, especially like young preteen and like early teenage young boys, are like borderline like sociopaths. Like not, I don't mean, you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to.
We all are. We probably were when we were little kids.
It's just
Wait,
one of
are
those things.
men born sociopath? You all get beat out of
crazy,
it.
Stupid shit all the time.
Fuck,
we used to take fucking fireworks to people.
Yeah, lighting shit on fire and shit. And it's like, I think the problem is it's easier for people like that to have simple, quote unquote, cool messaging, especially when like aggression feels right for like young boys. And like, I don't know what the solution is other than to offer
an alternative.
Yeah. Like better fucking, like, I honestly think this is where like you need like fucking martial arts or like, things like that, where it's like you can, because I think we've kind of lowered the aggression in a lot of our standard, like our sports are less aggressive. There's a lot more like, like safety involved, which is good. Like, I don't think we should be like giving kids concussions, but we need to have that competition and that outlet.
You need to have that outlet. Yeah. So like what I think, and this kind of goes back to like how Brittany and I are super hardcore libertarians, but like if you eliminated the minimum wage, then like think about a little like an example of, trust me, this tracks.
Let go.
I'll give you a chance to bring you around. Let's say
believe me. Okay. So like a couple weeks ago, I went to a restaurant to get takeout food, and one of like the coolest things, and I gave this kid a $10 tip because this was just so cool to me. This kid couldn't have been older than maybe 10 years old. I walked into the restaurant and he said, "Hey, how are you? Were you here? Like what's going on?" I said, "Hey, I'm here for takeout." And he said, "Okay." He runs back into the kitchen, he yells, and then gets everybody's attention, not like in an asshole-ish way, but like he got their attention to let them know that like something was going on. And then like he said, "Okay, well, someone will be out with you shortly." And like this kid's voice hasn't dropped or anything. And then he proceeded to go on and like lay out a table with glasses and give the silverware to a table. That kid has a productive outlet that's going to make him better off for the rest of his life. That was to me one of the coolest things ever. I made a tweet about it. I was so stoked. I'm like, this little dude is going places, and I could not be happier. So like the reason why I say, limited minimum wage, and then even like, child labor laws.
No, I actually agree with this.
Yeah, but like you give a kid a creative outlet who's able to go do things that make him a little bit better off. And then he learns skills that are going to be used for the rest of his life. And he learns a work, he develops discipline. And that is going to keep him from looking up at Andrew Tate. He's going to realize like, hey, I got an honest day's pay. I'm a high value guy.
Once you learn the value.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And that's
I've worked my whole life because of my parents, because of my dad. Then that was instilled in me at a very young age.
Exactly.
And then you learn the value of money. And like I was like, oh, I can buy my own stuff. I can do my own things. And you like develop a sense of independence with that. I actually genuinely agree with this. And this is like my issue with child labor.
Where does the minimum wage getting cut out of this? Because it sounds like we're talking about
because you're making it illegal. Because you're making it illegal for them to work. Right.
Yeah.
So like if
you're not going to pay a fucking 8-year-old $15 an hour, Ryan.
Exactly.
Like, come on. Like, but like
point... it's better he gets something than nothing.
Yes.
I worked in a battery parts factory when I was fucking 14, and I don't necessarily think, I think child labor laws are probably good.
Well, you had a bad experience. because genuinely it was a good experience for me because also I think it's because my dad kind of guided the situation. He wasn't gonna let me work in something shitty. Like it was also like even a lemonade stand is technically child labor. You know,
Right.
like
So
anything is considered child labor. So like, where are the fucking rules here?
I understand the spirit of what you're discussing. The problem is how do you, and this is probably going to get into like the where I have major issues with like the libertarian philosophy in fundamental, because this is like, how do you stop the abuse of that? Right. So let's say we take away child labor laws. How do you stop fucking, how do we?
People will be generally reasonable enough. Like for me,
People will be
public
reasonable?
shame. Public
People will be
shame.
reasonable?
It's already happening.
I think so.
Public fucking shame.
Exactly.
Dude,
but
Russell
who-
Brand can't do shit without like 4 girls coming out talking shit about him. Like what I'm saying is like
How much of- how many
people
of you
act
do
like
you have
public shame
iPhones?
has no power. The internet has changed the goddamn game. Public shame, like I know like on the right people are like we're anti-cancel culture. You fucking can't be because guess what? Cancel culture.
not.
Yes,
They're not at all. They
people
are not at all.
abuse cancel culture for things that don't fucking matter. 100%. But what I'm saying is that cancel culture has to fucking exist in order for people to fucking behave correctly.
Listen, I don't want to be the one who's defending the governmental institutions, but I don't know how.
This is where the libertarians and the statists break up.
like, do you guys like? So, let's just. Are we going to deny that there are factories where children jump out the fucking windows and get caught in trampolines?
In the U.S.?
What? Yeah.
Or where?
Where we shop at those factories?
They're not children. They're adults. I'm pretty sure.
They're children.
Yeah, to be fair, in China.
Wait, what?
if
Well,
we're talking
what's
about
the
China and
difference?
Taiwan,
We're still ordering
not entirely
fucking
right.
shit from them. What's the difference?
Yeah.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. The only reason it doesn't happen here is because we have laws saying you can't do it. There's
And we
places where they don't have
outsource it
laws.
in other places that are
Yeah,
horrible.
Okay, but
And
once
the
again,
cancel culture doesn't give
Couldn't
a
we
fuck.
create a moral structure where we do it without making it like that? Like, in my opinion, I don't think that
in my belief is
you
that
have a lot
laws,
of faith in the state. is
okay, well,
what-
you know,
I have
okay,
a lot
real
of-
quick,
I have
like
no faith in people. I have
most
no faith-
parents.
I also
Most
don't have faith
parents
in people,
don't
but
even hit their kids anymore. So do you really think they're going to send them to a job where they're going to get brutalized? Like, come on. Generally, I think people are gonna
we're
be
not
okay.
living in
So
China.
here's the thing.
No, and even
Kyle
in China,
and
that
Brandon.
doesn't happen. People say that all the time, but like the social credit score, a lot of the stuff that
Oh.
you hear about China is complete total BS.
They have child labor. I mean, that's absolutely a thing. Like,
Yeah, it's probably not to the degree that we've heard of here.
So
a lot of the stuff you hear about China.
I actually do think China is more fucked up than you think, Kyle. But
So I
I've
dabbled
got a bad
in.
against this all the time.
I can talk to it. I dabbled in entrepreneurship, and I had a business partner who was a manufacturing expert for China. Like he would take our designs and go to China and talk to them, and it's literally like they kind of like hide them in the closet, but it's there. It's like it's blatantly like, and the child labor isn't terrible in a lot of the ways that you're seeing. Like they're working, they're making money, they bring it to the families. It's a system. The people jumping out the nets are the bad apples in that system, but it's still bad if you value like, oh, your kid should be going to school and have the work experience of the lemonade stand should be an option to build the experience. Not
yes,
you shouldn't need to start making a living wage when you're 6.
Yes,
But we used to not have those laws, and we did it. We used it. We put people like you will exploit what can be exploited, right? Like labor is a resource that can be drawn from. So if it's available, people will the culture will shift, and you'll need to start having kids again to be able to afford sending your kids off to the fucking the Walmart brand play factory.
I mean, to be fair, the state of the country that we live in the U.S. right now, I really have a hard time believing that if we got rid of child labor laws, that there would be a bunch of companies that were going to abuse children. To be completely honest,
you don't jump into the abuse right away. You build these learning centers for manufacturing.
But what I'm going to say is that there's also the issue is that the concept of the state as a structure and crony capitalism, like this crony capitalism is just the state and business scissoring.
Corporations, yes.
Yeah.
Scissoring,
Business
I like they use that
scissoring.
term.
So
Yeah.
wait, so you're saying that corporations would care about the children?
To
They
be
would have a
fair, I'm
financial
not an
incentive to do so,
ANCAP, which
actually.
I'm a minarchist, so I actually do believe in
I'm an
a
ANCAP.
somewhat, yes. So I believe in somewhat structure of the state. So like my perspective is going to be different than Kyle's. I actually believe that there should be a night watchman state that holds businesses accountable to a certain degree. But for the most part, I actually lean somewhat ANCAP, where I would say most things should just be let it go. Let it go.
All right.
So-
Should we keep going on this, or we're a little over our?
No,
yeah,
this
I
is
do
this
think
is literally the last topic.
let's
So
end
let's
it out
finish
on this.
this. Yeah.
I just
Okay.
can't imagine a world where children are allowed to work and that's not exploited, right?
No,
Like,
because there's a way to not exploit it.
all right, but adults are allowed to work and they're exploited. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, but
Like,
what's your okay? The problem is that what's your definition of exploited? Because like if
Yeah.
there's people who probably work their asses off and don't get what we think their fair share should be, but like they're still doing that. And if they didn't think it was a fair deal, then they would quit and go get a different job. That's really a majority of what there is.
So
to it.
that works great when you have an abundance of options. If you have an excess of labor, right, which just adding a fucking several million people to the labor force would allow you to do what? So all right, so
Are you saying less jobs, or are you saying less workers?
No, more workers per job available means that employers can offer less for that job, right? That's just basic economics, right? If there's more people to do the job,
That's not true. Because
how
a
is
lot
that
of
not true?
I would disagree with that, because it's going to be dependent upon the business owner to decide what they want to pay all their employees. And this is kind of why I'm against unions.
Let's say unskilled labor. Let's start there. We'll come to unions. I'll talk unions as well, but let's go here.
We're not going to unions tonight, but we can talk.
That's
a little
fine.
bit
That's fine. But so unskilled labor.
Sure.
Right. So you have it. This is most people's problems with immigrants, right? Where they're willing to do a job for less money than native born people. And I don't want to get into immigration, but this is the general concept.
I have a friend that just talked to me about this, and he was like, I actually we're keeping this undisclosed, but they hire illegal immigrants, and he's like, illegal immigrants are the best workers because they actually do the fucking job. The thing is, reasons why immigrants take jobs is because they want to work. They do the job well. Like it has nothing to do with ethnicity, because you can hire a Hispanic person that was born in the U.S. and they're gonna not have the same work ethic as someone that was immigrated from fucking wherever the fuck. They will have higher work ethic. Yes, they have higher work ethic because they want to stay here and they feel that passion of wanting to stay here. I don't actually feel this threat of immigrants, because the immigrants are actually fucking better workers.
All right, I apologize for getting us into the weeds. Let's come back to basic premise here, right? Let's say we have a society, there's 100 jobs and there's 100 people, right? And it's like, oh, I don't want this job, I'll take it. And people move around. That's all great, right? Like and there might be a couple people who wind up fucking falling through the cracks. There might be one person who's like, I got 2 jobs, motherfucker, because I'm awesome, right? Like, and that's kind of how it works. When you get to a point where there's 100 jobs and there's 1,000 people,
that's not possible, because capitalism creates more jobs.
Let him finish.
Right.
It's
So
hypothetical.
Right. So now, if you have an excess of laborers, those jobs are like, when there was 100 people and 100 jobs, the job paid $10 per hour, and then all of a sudden now you're like, I have 1,000 people, and it's like, hey, does anybody want to do it for $9? And somebody who's less qualified than the person above is now willing to be like, I'll take less money because I'm not as good as that person, but I'll still do the job.
Yeah,
right?
well, this happens in photography.
Hold on. Look.
Correct, right? So so as you have an excess of labor, the value of the position goes down. That's the fundamental premise, right? Employers can offer less if you have people who are willing to do it for less because there's competition.
Okay.
Right? Do we disagree with that?
So what you're saying, I understand, because in the photography business has happened. So like venues will look for us, and then I'll have a rate, and then there'll be photographers that will undercut me. But the issue is that the person that they hire that undercuts is always shittier. So Correct. They realize that they don't want that person. That doesn't last. That is temporary.
It doesn't last is not the truth of it. It is a stratification. You'll have some some people and some venues and stuff will work with high-paying photographers, but others will find the line or like, I don't need it to be that good, and then they're never going to pay more than that.
No,
so
but
you get a stratification, right? So there will be some companies that will treat their child labor really well, and it's going to be like they're going to be high-paying child labor, and it's going to be really well taken care of. And there's going to be some in the middle, and there's going to be some at the bottom where they're going to treat them like they fucking treat line workers at battery parts factories.
But the products at those particular places will suck. Like that's the same thing
Exactly.
with photography. Is what I'm
but
saying.
There's a
is
market
like
for shitty products.
No, but
Not as big of a market.
if you're, someone might buy it once, they're never gonna buy it again. Do you know what I mean? Like even with China, I order things from China, so like I know there are a lot of companies in China that fucking suck ass. And I'm sure that they use really shitty labor, and that's why. But then there are some that do not, and I would assume that that's probably because they treat their workers a little better. That's literally would be my assumption. But like the better quality product and experience you get comes down to how well you pay and treat your fucking employees. Because the people that you treat not well and you don't pay them well, you're not going to get as good of an experience. And that comes back to photography. The whole reason why a venue buys photos is so they can use those photos to promote. If you use those photos to promote and they're shit, you're not going to get people that want to come to your club. You are basically investing in something that doesn't matter.
Like things that like companies that cut corners and like have a shittier product but offer it at a cheaper price don't have a market. Like I don't understand
No,
like, where are you
not the
like,
cheaper,
what America do you live in?
Not the cheaper price.
I think we're going a little bit of circles here.
Not the cheaper price. It is cheaper is not wrong. It is the quality of the cheap. Like for example, Warby Parker is the cheapest glasses in fucking the country, but they're like $100 and they're still good quality. Do you know what I mean? Cheaper doesn't always mean bad.
Right, but so the people who are buying the most sunglasses are buying the shitty $7 ones off Amazon.
Yeah,
that are probably made with shitty child labor,
and those don't last very long.
Good, but they're good enough to get by. So, like, in my situation, my thought on this would be like, you could hire a technician that you would pay $14 an hour, and he isn't able to fix anything, and then eventually you would see that come back because, hey, this oil filter's leaking, this wheel bearing was left loose, this wheel fell off. Versus where if you paid a technician 21, 30, whatever, however much an hour, that was a lot more than that. You're going to get more quality work, and therefore you're going to generate a better word of mouth, and therefore more people are going to trust in your business. Because that's another part of capitalism is that you have trust in the business.
But both of you are talking about skilled labor, which is a totally different, like if you go back to the way
you require unskilled labor to eventually get skilled. As in, like, if you eliminated minimum wage and you allowed people to get in younger and kind of get their feet wet and work underneath somebody, then they would no longer be unskilled, they'd be skilled workers. So once again, the idea exactly.
Yeah, but the vast majority of labor, at least in the US, is unskilled, right?
What is unskilled?
Unskilled labor is
but the vast majority of people who earn minimum wage stop earning minimum wage within a year.
No, sure, I want to know what is unskilled labor. We're talking about like fast food, right? What else?
Manufacturing, retail.
Manufacturing actually. Here, this is the people
Assembly
that I know. The person that I know.
Yes,
this is exactly the job that I was talking about. Why they hire illegal immigrants is because that they actually do the job well.
Will do
the
job.
Sure, but it's still just showing up and logging in hours, right? If they're willing to log more hours, that's fine. If they're willing to work harder, but so unskilled. Right, to answer your question, is vast majority of the forward, like the ground level work. That's most minimum wage jobs. But like that could be a bank teller. Bank tellers are unskilled labor. Agriculture. There's most of the work that you do. And to Kyle's point, you start there and you climb up, and that's good.
You do understand that the majority of the people that are alive in the world right now are millennials. So they're above. They have to be at least 25. So I would hope that they have some fucking skills. So like, are we talking about
that's semantics, right?
I mean, semantics. It's true though. Like. What if you are 25 and you are not skilled? It's kind of your fucking fault.
No. Skilled labor is. So I agree with that too, and that's soft skill. But we're referring to like a lineation of the way you would craft something, right? So you can get a job like doing retail and or slotting into positions, all kinds of things. Your resume translates and it goes really well. You cannot get a job making missiles for Lockheed Martin. That's skilled labor. You can't get a job.
No, but you can develop skills
Correct.
without like, this is literally how I exist as a human. It wasn't like I developed skills my whole life. I didn't fucking graduate college. I worked at a fucking bar where I shot photos for $50 a fucking night and like learned skills. That's like, yes, you have to do cheap labor to fucking develop the skills. That's how I did it.
This goes back to the point of eliminating minimum wage, because like if you allowed unskilled labor to get into places where, you know, it would require skill to get in there, hey, better you make $2 an hour while you learn to get skilled, and then you know, you make no money at all.
The goal
is
is
not
get
skilled.
That is true, and that's the problem. It's better for you to make $2 than it is for you to make no dollars. So people will be like, I'll pay you $2 instead of $7, or I'll pay you $2 instead of $15. And if there is enough people to do it, then they don't ever have to pay you more.
But then those people will eventually leave because they'll realize like, hey, I'm officially skilled. Because once again, you're going to get skilled eventually, and you're going to say, okay, well, fuck this. I'm going to.
I don't want to do this anymore.
But all right, but if there's like enough people who all right, like then it's like, what about internships? Right, then all of a sudden, it's like
internships are trash, and people shouldn't do them.
Wait.
If
you eliminated the minimum wage. Why are internships trash?
Well, I just think that
this is fantastic.
Well,
why are internships trash?
To be fair, okay, I get it because you're developing skills, but you're getting no pay. You're getting no pay. I would not do it. No, I would not do an internship because
that's
it
the
is
logical
zero
conclusion of getting rid of the fucking minimum wage.
No. You're getting zero pay to do work.
Correct.
It's literally slave labor.
If you eliminate the minimum wage, you could do an internship and get paid. Yes. Because what they're essentially saying is that we will pay, or we're not willing to pay you to do this work.
If there's enough people who are dreaming and hopeful, right?
If it's doing the legwork here, let's not forget that.
It's fair. This is a hypothetical because we need more people, but you're proposing eliminating child labor laws and massively increasing the labor force. But internships are a perfect example of that.
You are also assuming that people would put their kids into the labor force.
And kids.
I'm assuming that the exploitive tendencies of the society we have would continue to exploit.
I would probably agree with you. Like, as is, probably not a great idea. Like, I think we have other things that we have to worry about eliminating first before the child labor. Like, I genuinely would say, like, child labor laws might not be the first on the list.
Okay.
Well, I'll agree to that too. If you build me a utopia where we all fucking get along, get rid of the fucking child, you can get rid of the fucking jails, you know, all that stuff. I think it's one of those things that, to me, the society we live in currently, if you took away those laws, people would be
minimum wage. I would be about though. I will be about minimum wage. 100% now. Lego, and people can cry about it, but I would.
So I'd love to see a city do it. I'd love to see a city get rid of the minimum wage.
All right. So
I mean, the minimum wage is $7.50 right now, federally. Nobody fucking makes that.
It's $7.25.
I'm pretty sure it's $7.50
that make
it's $7.25.
No, it depends on where they live. Like, no one lives in a city. Find me a human that lives in Boston right fucking now that makes $7.25 or $7.50. It doesn't fucking exist. It doesn't fucking exist. It's not possible, Ryan. Because they could not fucking survive, and nobody would take that job because they'd be like, fuck this.
All night.
I've worked at a place where we had to raise at the strip club. We had to raise the fucking price, like the wages of shit, because people wouldn't accept the job if we didn't. It used to be my job, which was pretty fucking easy. It's a fucking door girl position. We had to raise the position for it. We had to raise it to $20 an hour from $15, and it's easy as shit because nobody would take it in Boston.
Okay. Well, let's we'll be arguing economics all night. I think we should tap it off here. I think this is
all right. Lego. Bye, guys. Thank you for hanging. Though I was enjoying this conversation because I get really
it was good.
passionate about
That was
it.
good.
I get really passionate about it.
I felt like the internship was a solid point for me. I'm walking away with a win, and I'm gonna.
It wasn't even a win though. That's
I
a
think
zero.
you lost that one. I didn't think Brandy and
You
I
lo-
would be teaming up on Ryan by the end of the night.
No, that was great. I felt really happy about that when you were like, interns are bad. I was like, I agree. All right, we're
Bye,
good.
guys.
See you.
Oh wait, follow Kyle. Kyle, say your shit.
Komatovic at Twitter, KYLEMATOVCIK on Twitter. Podcast is called In Liberty and Health, 5 till midnight. And then obviously this Cognitive Vigilance, and then commoncrown.com. And I got a couple shows coming up if you're in southwestern Pennsylvania. Other than that, that's all I got going on. Thanks, guys.
Also, if you are in the New England area, come to Cult of Art, Hekatia.
There'll be
It is
no
going
fat
to be
chicks.
a great fucking time on October 21st.
No
Yeah,
fat
I may
chicks.
or may not be canceled by then, but like probably not. I'll be fine.
Yo,
I'll survive.
all body types are beautiful. Well,
Yeah,
let's not hate.
Ryan is my publicist.
You guys are killing me.
Bye.
See you guys.